first thing Clara noticed when she opened her eyes was the silence. Not the comfortable kind. The kind where you know something happened and you're the last to find out. She'd been sick for 3 days. A fever that came in waves. Bones that ached like she'd been hit by a truck. And a dizziness that made standing up feel like an Olympic sport. Dr. Patel had called it a nasty viral syndrome on top of anemia. Told her to rest, drink fluids, and not push herself. Resting had felt like the only thing she could do. Ethan had been good about it at first. Brought her soup, refilled her water glass, told her not to worry about the clients. "I've got everything under control," he'd said, rubbing her shoulder. She'd believed him. That was the problem, maybe. She always believed him. It was Margaret who'd let herself in on Tuesday morning. Clara heard the front door click open, heard Margaret's voice calling Ethan's name, heard the murmur of conversation downstairs. She was too tired to care. Margaret came up sometimes, unannounced, with casseroles or opinions or both. Clara had learned to pick her battles. She didn't learn until Thursday that Margaret had stood in her bedroom doorway, phone raised and taken a photograph. The picture showed Clara curled on her side, hair matted against her forehead, mouth slightly open, the blankets twisted around. It was not a flattering photo. It was the photo of someone who was genuinely, miserably sick. Margaret had posted it to the Round Rock Neighborhood Moms group on Facebook. 427 members. The caption, "Some people's idea of working from home is sleeping until noon while my son works 10-hour days to support. Pray for." By the time Clara saw it, there were over 100 comments. Some were supportive. That's not okay, posting someone without their but most were the kind of women who lived for. I knew there was something off. No wonder she never comes to the block. My daughter-in-law would. Linda from 2 streets over had. I saw her car in the driveway at 11 a.m. last. Clara sat at the kitchen table, phone in hand, and read every single comment. Her hands were. She wasn't even angry at first. She was humiliated. The kind of humiliation that makes your skin feel, that makes you want to disappear into the floor. These were hers. The people she waved to at the grocery store. The woman whose kid she'd watched for an hour this month. Ethan. He took one look at her face and sat down. "You saw it. You knew? Mom called me yesterday about it. I told her to take it down." Shh. He reached across the table and covered her hand with his. "Clara, so sorry. This is not okay." She wanted to believe him. Believe him. He looked genuinely upset, but there was something in his eyes. Something calculated, maybe, just tired, that she couldn't. She told herself she was being paranoid. Fever brain. They didn't talk about it much after that. He said he'd handle it. Clara went back to bed, sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw those comments scrolling. 3 days later, she woke up alarm. Not as she wanted to, because Ethan was shaking her shoulder, his face dark. "Clara, wake up." "What time is it?" 5, I need you to get up. Come here." He was already dressed, which was wrong for a Saturday. He pulled her out of bed and led her to the kitchen, where his lap was on the table. The screen casting blue. "Up all night," he said. "About what Mom did. About all of it." He took a breath. "I found some things." Clara, to see this. The laptop toward her. It was a Facebook group she'd never seen before. Bennett family, private, 23 members. Margaret was an admin. The most recent post from 2 days ago was a screenshot neighborhood group photo. Mark comment below it read, "She's been since day one. I keep telling Ethan he can do better. When he finally comes to his senses, replaceable." Stared at the word, replaceable. Looked up at Ethan. He was watching her, his expression unreadable in the blue glow of the screen. The word hung in the air between them like smoke. Replaceable. Clara didn't say anything for a long time. She just stared at the screen, at her mother-in-law's certainty, at the way Margaret had typed it so casually, as if discussing a kitchen appliance. "She's been saying stuff like this for months," Ethan said finally. His voice was quiet, controlled. "In the family group. To my aunt, even to Brooke. I didn't show you because I didn't want to upset you." Clara looked at him. "You knew she was talking about me like this and you didn't say anything?" "I was handling it." "By doing what?" He flinched. "By talking to her. By trying to keep the peace." "The peace." Clara stood up. Her legs were still weak from being sick, but she didn't care. "Ethan, she posted a photo of me in bed to 400 people. She called me lazy. She told her family I'm replaceable. And you were trying to keep the peace." I know how it sounds." He ran a hand through his hair. "But I'm done. That's why I woke you up. I'm done handling it quietly. We're going to make her understand that this permanent." The plan, as Ethan laid it out over coffee that neither of them drank, was simple. Cold shoulder first. No Sunday dinners. No impromptu visits. No answering her calls right away. Let her feel the absence. Meanwhile, they'd keep collecting evidence. screenshots, messages, anything that showed. If Margaret didn't back down, they'd. She hates being ignored more than, he said. 2 weeks of radio silence and she'll coming. Clara wanted to feel. She wanted to feel like they were a team, but something about the way he did it, the mince, made her wonder how long he'd been thinking. She called Margaret that. It was the first time she'd initiated a confrontation in 5 years of marriage. Her hands were shaking, but her voice. Margaret, I saw the photo. I saw the comments. I want you to down. A pause. Then syrup. Clara, dear, I think you're overreacting. It was just a little joke. It wasn't a joke. It was humiliating. And, well, Margaret's tone shifted slightly. The syrup hardened into something colder. I suppose if you're going to be sensitive about it. But I hope you'll think about why people react. Clara hung up. She stood in the kitchen, pounding, and realized with a cold clarity that Margaret had not acted. She'd agreed to take down the photo while implying the problem was clear. That evening, Nadine called. Clara told her everything, the photo, the plan. Nadine was quiet. Clara, I need to say something. Hear me. Okay. Ethan's plan? The cold shoulder, the evidence collection? It's too neat, too thought out, like he's been for a while. Clara's stomach tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying ask yourself why he waited until now, those messages. Why he didn't defend you publicly when the photo went up. Why his first move isn't to call his mother and apologize. Inside. I'm not saying wrong about Margaret. I'm saying there might be on than you know. Clara didn't want to hear it. She told Nadine he was being paranoid, that Ethan finally on her side, that she didn't need doubt. The conversation ended badly. Nadine said, I'm here when you're ready, hung up. 2 days later, Clara was in Ethan's car, hers was in the shop, reaching for the glove compartment, wetting stiff. An envelope opened. The return address was she'd never heard of. Meridian Capital Partners Division. Turned it over. Ethan's name was on the front. Postmark was 3 weeks. She put it back. She told herself nothing. A referral. But her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Clara didn't mention the envelope. She told herself she was respecting his privacy, but the truth was, she was afraid of what she'd find. Instead, she focused on the one thing she could control, the narrative. She spent 3 days drafting a post for the neighborhood group. Not angry, not defensive, just clear. She included Dr. Patel's note, with the doctor's permission, confirming she'd been under medical care for anemia and a viral infection. She wrote that the photo had been taken without her knowledge or consent, while she was too sick to get out of bed. She didn't name Margaret. She didn't call anyone out. She just told her side. The post went up on a Thursday morning. By noon, there were 80 comments. Some were supportive. I'm so sorry this happened to you. But others were the kind of people who needed to believe the worst. If she's so sick, why is she on Facebook? My mother-in-law would never. Linda from 2 streets over wrote, I just think there are 2 sides to every story. Clara read them all. Then she closed the app and didn't open it again for 2 days. Margaret called Ethan that night. Clara could hear her voice through the kitchen wall. High, tight. The sound of a woman who'd been crossed. She's making me look like a Margaret. After everything I've done for that family. Ethan's voice was lower. Mom, she was. You posted a photo of her in bed. What did you expect? I expected my son to stand by me. There was a long silence. Clara held her. I am standing by, Ethan said fully. But you need to fix this, publicly, before it gets. Clara didn't hear it. She backed away from her heart doing something complicated. He'd defeated her, sort of. But the way I am standing you, was to Margaret. The apology came 3 days later. Printed on stock, Margaret's careful cursive across the front. Clara opened it at the table. Ethan sitting across from her. It was not It was a statement of regret that had chosen to interpret a light-hearted moment as a person. It expressed hope they could move forward and in small. I only hope Ethan knows what kind of person. Clara read. Then she looked at Ethan. He was staring at her. His was tight. When he felt her eyes on him. Did you know she was going to say that? No, not. But he still wouldn't. That night, Clara lay in bed while Ethan slept. She thought about the envelope, about Nadine's warning, about the way Ethan had said, I am standing by. She thought about the post she'd made, and how it had changed nothing. If anything, it had made Margaret angrier. And she got up, went to the kitchen. The consultation was free. The lawyer, A woman named Sandra Ortiz with a calm voice and a no-nonsense demeanor. Listen, she said. You have a case for privacy. But honestly, suing your mother-in-law is a nuclear option. It'll blow up the marriage. Most people in your position try first. I don't want to sue her, Clara said. Stop. Then you need leverage, Sandra said. Something that want to stop. Not something that tact. Clara hung up and sat in the dark time. Leverage. Have any? Or did she? Out the envelope.
Marine Capital Partners.
She'd not to go there. In the bedroom, Ethan rolled over and was asleep. Clara didn't move. The lawyer's words stayed with Clara. Leverage. She spent the next week turning the idea over in her head, trying to figure out what she had that Margaret wanted. The answer increasingly was nothing. Margaret had the social capital, the family influence, the money. Clara had a graphic design business and a husband who wouldn't look her in the eye. She called Nadine. It had been 10 days since their fight, and Clara was tired of being proud. I'm sorry, she said. You were trying to help and I shut you down. Nadine was quiet for a moment. I'm not going to say I told you so. You kind of just did. A laugh, small and tired. Okay, I did. But Clara, I need you to listen to me now. Don't give Ethan all your evidence. Don't let him be the one holding the cards. Keep copies. Keep your own lawyer. Clara's stomach tightened. You think he'd use it against me? I think he's been managing this situation from the beginning, and I think you don't actually know what his endgame is. Nadine's voice softened. I'm not saying he's evil. I'm saying protect yourself. Clara didn't want to hear. Not because Nadine was wrong. She was probably, but because admitting it meant facing something she'd been avoiding. I have to go. I have a client call. And because she was angry and scared and tired of being the one who always compromised, she did the exact opposite of what Nadine had advised. She gathered every screenshot, every message, the non-apology letter, the doctor's note, and put them all in a folder on Ethan's laptop. I trust you, she told him when let's handle this. Ethan kissed her. You. She felt better for about 6. Then Margaret struck. It started with a phone call. Ethan's her. The one Clara had always thought was on her. Brooke sounded this. Clara, I need to ask thing. Mom says you've been acting about her. That true? Clara's blood cold. Who that? Didn't say. But she's telling the family that you're building a case against her, that you're unstable, that you've been planning this. Brooke paused. I don't believe her. I just wanted. Clara hung up and stared at the wall. Only one person knew about Ethan. She found him in the garage, going through a box. Did you tell your mother? He didn't look up. What? No, why would I do that? She knows. Just called. She said Margaret is telling the whole family I'm unstable. Ethan put down the wrench, his face fully neutral. Maybe Brooke told her. Or maybe Mom guessed that. Ethan. Clara. He looked at her then, and his eyes were steady. Too steady. You have to trust. She wanted to. God, she wanted to. The envelope in the car, the lawyer's warning, his voice. They all piled and breathed. That night, she lay and slept. She thought about how isolated she felt. Nadine was hurt. Brooke was nervous. Her own family lived in Oklahoma, 4 hours away. The neighbors thought she was either a victim or a villain, depending on what thread they'd read. And Ethan was there, wasn't there. He was holding all the cards, telling her to trust him. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Can we meet? I need nothing about Ethan. But you have to promise not to tell him it was me. Stared at the screen. She typed back. When? They met at a Starbucks on I-35, the kind with a drive-through and too much foot traffic. Brooke was already there, sitting in a corner booth with a latte she hadn't touched. She looked younger than her 29 years, and scared. Thanks for coming, Brooke said. I wouldn't do this if it wasn't important. Clara sat down. Just tell me. Brooke took a breath. Ethan has been in financial trouble for almost 2 years. A real estate investment gone bad. He lost about $180,000, most of it on credit cards and private loans. Clara felt the floor shift beneath her. What? He's been juggling payments, taking out new cards to pay old ones. Mom found out last spring. She's been helping him, sort of. But her help comes with string. Brooke's voice dropped. She tells him what to do, who to see, how to handle you, and he goes along with it because he needs her money. Clara stared at her. The phone. When Mom took it, Ethan was downstairs. I know because I was on the phone with him while it happened. He didn't. He told her you'd been sleeping a lot, that you'd be out until at least. Brooke looked sick. I'm sorry. I should have said something. Clara didn't hear the rest. The coffee shop noise faded to a hum. $180,000. Ethan was downstairs. He told her my schedule. She drove home on autopilot. Ethan was at work or the house. She went straight to the office, to the filing cabinet corner, the one Ethan always locked, the one he said held old. She tried his birthday. 3/14. The top drawer was full of what she expected. Tax returns, insurance policies, the deed. The bottom drawer, stacked envelopes unopened. Meridian Capital Partners. Credit card statements from 3 cards she didn't know existed. A letter from a collection agency. And a folder labeled correspondence. She opened it. Text message printouts. Ian and Margaret. The earliest was from 6 months ago. I can transfer $15,000, but you need to get controllers. She's asking me questions. Ethan. I'm under control. She trusts me. More recent. Weeks before the photo. Margaret. I'm for Tuesday. Make sure she's in bed. Ethan. She's sick. Out all morning. The one that broke her. 3 days after the photo. The same morning he'd woke a.m. Ethan. The photo thing. Just promise you'll help me fill or get it. Then we're agreed. She never sat on the floor. The papers spread around like a crime scene. Her hands were numb. Her face was wet. She was crying, but she remembered starting. The plan. The evidence. The cold shoulder. We're a team speech. All of it. A performance. He'd been fighting Margaret. He'd been managing Clara. Keeping her close. Keeping her trusting. Keeping her from questions. The door opened. Froze. The papers. The open cabinet. She looked at the clock. Ethan wasn't supposed to be home for 3 hours. Footsteps. Coming toward the office. She moved on instinct. Scooped the papers into the folder. Shoved it in the bottom drawer. Slammed the cabinet shut. And was sitting on the couch with a book when Ethan appeared in the doorway. Hey, he said. You're home early. Client canceled. You? Same. Meeting got pushed. He set his keys on the counter. You look like you've been crying. Allergies. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he shrugged and went to the kitchen. Clara exhaled slowly. She'd bought time, but she didn't know how much. The next week was a kind of quiet hell. She pretended everything was normal. She made dinner. She laughed at his jokes. She asked about his day. All the while, the folder in the filing cabinet burned like a secret. She wanted to scream. She wanted to throw the papers in his face, but she didn't, because she didn't know what to do with the truth once it was out. She called Nadine. It went to voicemail. She called again the next day. She texted, I was wrong about everything. No reply. Nadine was still hurt, and Clara couldn't blame. Margaret chose that week to propose a family reconciliation. She called Ethan, of course, not Clara. Ethan told Clara about it over breakfast, his tone casual. Mom wants to have everyone over Sunday. She says she wants to apologize properly. Clara. She seems genuine this. Clara looked genuine. The woman who'd called her replaceable, who'd conspired with her husband to keep her in the dark, was now going to apologize. And Ethan was going to sit there and hold her hand under the table and tell her to play. She went. Because not going would raise questions. Because she was still afraid. Because some of her, the part that had spent 5 years being the good, couldn't stop her. The dinner was a master class in passive. Margaret made Clara's favorite, then said, I remember you used to love us before you started watching. She asked about Clara's, said, it must be nice setting your own. Ethan works. When Clara mentioned she'd been better, Margaret smiled. We were all worried. Stress can do strange things. Ethan kicked Clara under the table every time Margaret said something. Be nice, let it go. She wanted to scream. She left halfway dessert. Said she was feeling well. Ethan followed her. She sat in her car in the parking lot of a 24-hour Walmart, engine running. Not the kind. The kind that makes your shoulders shake and your nose run and you don't care. She'd lost her husband, her mother-in-law, her dignity, and possibly best friend, all in the... Marcus Webb, Ethan's business partner. She almost didn't answer. Clara? Hey, it's Marcus. Look, I know the blue, but Ethan told me you two were working on the loan situation together. The one from Meridian? It's coming due next month. I just wanted to make sure plan. Clara's turned to ice. What loan? The 180K. Ethan said you knew. Said you two were refinancing a house to cover it. The house. Their house. The one with names on the deed. She hung up. She sat for a long time. Then she drove to Nadine's apartment. Sat in the parking lot. Up. She couldn't. After everything. It was 2 when she got home. The house was dark except for the study. Hear Ethan's voice, low and through the door. She still doesn't know anything. We still have time. Just a month. Clara stood in the hall, hand on the wall, and listened to her husband lie about her to some of the line. For the first time, she didn't feel like crying. She felt like fighting. Clara didn't sleep that night. She sat at the kitchen table with a notepad and a pen, and for the first time in months, she thought clearly. The truth was simple. Ethan had lied to her. Margaret had manipulated her. Together, they'd built a box around her and called it marriage. But the box had cracks, and Clara was going to pry them open. First, the money. She logged into her personal checking account, the one she'd had before the wedding, the one Ethan never looked at. $12,417. Her design income went into a separate business account, another $8,000. She'd been careful, even when she wasn't paying attention. She transferred everything into one account and changed the password. Then she called Nadine. This time she didn't leave a message. She texted, "I know I messed up. I know you warned me and I didn't listen. I'm sitting in my kitchen at 4 a.m. and I'm scared and I need my friend. If you don't want to talk, I understand. But I had to 3 minutes later, Nadine, tell me everything. She declared. The debt, the photo, the text messages, the loan coming due, the house. By the time she finished, her voice was all. Nadine was, okay, here's who. They met at Nadine's apartment that afternoon. Nadine made coffee, strong, black, the way Clara liked it, and listened while Clara laid out what. Then Nadine said the thing that changed. You need a lawyer, not to him. To know your rights. If he's trying to refinance the house without your signature, that's a problem. If he's hiding debt that could become marital debt, that's a bigger problem. You need to know where. Clara called Sandra Ortiz that morning. The consultation. Sandra direct. You're not in as bad a position. The debt was incurred without your knowledge, for an investment you never agreed to. In Texas, that's potentially separate debt. The house is community property. He can't refinance without you. And if he's been conspiring with his mother to conceal assets. Fraud. Heated. I'm not saying we file tomorrow. I'm saying you have leverage. The third came from Brooke. For lunch. Brooke insisted on paying, which Clinton. Over salads, Brooke said the thing Clara for. Family trust. My dad said before he died, there's a portion, about $100,000, that's designated Ethan's children. If he has kids, it goes to them. If he doesn't, by the time he turns 40, Mom. Brooke paused. But if Ethan gets divorced, the trustee, our Uncle Ray, he could distribute the principal directly. Mom can't stop him. $400,000. Margaret's biggest fear wasn't the foe or the drama. It was money. Clara night. She didn't have Ethan's money or its influence, but something they didn't, truth. And the truth, deployed carefully, could break their alliance without raising her voice. Her phone. Created a group text. Added Ethan. Added Mark. Typed this Sunday. 3:00. My house. We need to talk. Have some things to sent. Then she put the phone down, herself a glass of wine, and waited. Ethan called within 10 minutes. What's this about? Sunday, Clara said. I'll explain then. Clara, tell me what's going on. I'll see you Sunday. She hung up. It was the first time she'd ever hung up on him mid-sentence. It felt good. Margaret didn't call. She texted, I don't know what game you're playing, but I won't be spoken to like this. Clara didn't reply. Before Sunday, she did 2 things. First, she made copies of every document from the filing cabinet, the statements, the letters, the text message printouts, and drove them to Nadine's apartment. Nadine had a small fireproof safe in her closet. For my important stuff, she'd said. Now it held Clara's evidence. Just in case, Clara said. Nadine nodded. She didn't ask. Second, she called Marcus. They met at a coffee shop near his office. He looked nervous, like he knew he'd already said too much. Ethan's going to kill me when he finds out I talked to you. Then don't tell him, Clara said. I just need to understand the full picture. Marcus told her everything. The investment had been Ethan's idea, a commercial property in Pflugerville that was supposed to flip in 6 months. The market had. They'd been sitting on it for 18 months, bleeding money every month. The Meridian loan was a bridge loan, due at the end of next. If they couldn't, Meridian would foreclose, and Ethan would still owe the debt. Did he ever try to use our house as collateral? Clara asked. Marcus had. He taught it. A cash-out refinance, but your name is on the deed. He'd need your signature. He said he was on it. Clara's hands tightened around her coffee cup. That's what the reconciliation dinner. The apology. The charm offensive. He'd been softening her up sign. They came. Clara set the dining room table with 3 glass of water. No coffee, no snacks. This was all. Ethan arrived first. He looked tired, anxious. Claire, is this? Down. Margaret arrived at 3 on the dot, dressed in a navy pantsuit, her expression a mixture of defiant. She sat with asked. Clara stood at the table. Didn't yell. She didn't cry. She spoke in the same calm, measured voice she used when presenting design clients. I know about the investment, the Pflugerville property, the $180,000. The Meridian loan due next month. Ethan's face went white, tightened. I know Ethan was downstairs when you took a photo, Margaret. I told you I'd be asleep. I know you two have been exchanging text messages about how to keep me in the dark. I know Ethan tried to refinance this without telling me. She put on the table. Copies. I also know about the family trust. The $400,000 designated for Ethan's children. The one that reverts to Margaret if Ethan doesn't have kids by 40. The one that could go to Ethan direct divorced. Margaret's composure cracked. How do you... That's not the point, Clara said. The point is this. I'm not filing for divorce. Not today, but I have conditions. She laid them out. Ethan would provide full financial disclosure immediately. Credit counseling. He would sign a postnuptial agreement stating the Meridian debt responsibility. Margaret would issue a formal written apology for the photo and post a retraction in the neighborhood group, and both of them would never again lie to the thing. You agree, she said. We can try to fix this. If you don't, call my lawyer on Monday morning, and I file for divorce, and then the trust goes to Uncle and you both lose. Silence. Ethan stared at the table. Margaret stared at Clara. Then Margaret laughed. Sharp and bitter. You think you've won? You think a piece of paper and a threat changes anything? Ethan needs money. You need Ethan. We're all like it or not. The difference, Clara said. I'm not afraid to walk. Are you? The doorbell rang. All 3 looked toward the foyer. Clara wasn't expecting anyone. Opened the door. Brooke stood on the porch and face set. Mom, she said, looking past Clara to Margaret. I have something to say too. Brooke walked in like she'd been practicing the moment for years. She stood at the end of the dining table, looked at Margaret and said, I called Uncle Ray yesterday. Margaret's face changed. You did what? I told him about the trust, about how you've been using it to control Ethan, to control me. Brooke's voice shook, but she kept going. I told him you've been making threats about the principal for years, that you told Ethan if he didn't do what you wanted, you'd let the loan default and let him go bankrupt. That's a lie, Margaret said, but her voice was thinner now. It's not, and Ray is reviewing the trust documents. He's going to determine whether you've been acting in the beneficiary's best interest. Brooke took a breath. If he decides you haven't, he can remove you as co-trustee. Margaret sat down. For the first time, she looked small. Not the formidable matriarch, not the controlling mother-in-law, just a woman in her 60s alone, with her children arrayed against her. You don't understand, she said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. After your father died, I had nothing. The house, the trust, the family name. That was all I had left. If you two didn't need me, then what was I? She looked at. You came along and he loved you, and I was terrified he wouldn't need me anymore. So I pushed. I criticized. I tried to make him see that you weren't enough, that he still needed her. She stopped. I know it was wrong. I don't know how to stop. The room was quiet. Clara looked. He was staring at her, his face a mixture of pain and something else. Recognition. Brooke said, Tell her. Ethan. His eye. I was downstairs. When Mom took photo, I knew she was do it. I did. I told her you'd be asleep until noon. I gave her a schedule. I let her walk into our bedroom and take a picture of you. Clara. The cold shoulder, the weird speech. It was real. But it wasn't you. I wasn't trying to make stop. I was trying to manage you. Keep you close. Keep you from asking questions about the money. Because if you found out, you'd leave. And if you left, Mom would cut me off and I'd think. He stopped, ran a hand over his face. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just telling you the truth, the first time. Clara looked at the 3 of them, Britt broken, Brooke trembling, Ian exposed. She thought about 2 months. The photo, humiliation, the lies, fear. She thought about the woman been at the beginning, the one who'd believed her husband her side. Decision. I'm not going to file divorce today, she said. I'm also not going to... Ethan. I want you to move out. Not forever. For 6 months. During that time, you go to credit counseling. You go to therapy. You figure out why you chose your mother's money over your wife, and I'll figure out whether again. Her voice was steady. This isn't forgiveness. This is time. If after 6 months you've done the and I still want to try, we'll try. If not, we'll do this the right way. Lawyers and honesty. Grits. Ethan nodded. He didn't argue. Then he packed a suitcase. Claire in the hallway while he did it. At the door, she waited. Really do love you. She didn't answer. She closed the door. She leaned against it, eyes closed, and listened to the driveway. The house was quiet. For the first time in months, there was no performance. No strategy. No one to manage, just her, and the sound of her own breathing. 2 months later, Clara woke up on a Saturday morning with no alarm, no shaking shoulder, no urgent whisper in her ear. The sun was coming through the bedroom window, warm and gold, and the house was quiet in a way it hadn't been in a long time. She lay there for a minute, just breathing. Then she reached for her phone. No notifications from the neighborhood group. No missed calls from Margaret. No text from Ethan asking where she was or what she was doing. Just one email from a client, a coffee shop in East Austin that she'd done branding work for. The subject line read, "We love it." Clara smiled. She opened the email and read it twice. The owner wanted to use her design on their new signage, their cups, their website. They were referring her to 2 other local businesses. It was the biggest break her design business had ever gotten, and it was hers. No husband, no mother-in-law. Just her and her work and people who recognized. She got up and made coffee. The good kind. The single-origin beans she'd started buying for herself. The kind Ethan used to say was too expensive. She poured it into her favorite mug, the one with the chip on the handle that she'd refused to throw away, and carried it out to the back porch. The Texas morning was already warm. Cicadas hummed in the oak tree at the edge of the yard. A neighbor's dog barked somewhere down the street. Clara sat in the wooden chair Ethan had built her for their 3rd anniversary. The one thing of his slept and drank her. A lot had changed in 2 months. Had moved into an apartment near his house. He went to credit counseling every Wednesday and therapy every day. He texted her sometimes. Small things, honest. I sold the motorcycle. Paid down. My therapist says I have a problem with avoidance. I think's right, Clara replied. She was polite, she was kind, but she kept the door closed. Not locked, just closed. Margaret had done a eulogy. A real one, time. Written, signed, posted in the neighborhood group with the photo. Some neighbors did it. Linda from 2 streets over had sent Clara a request, which Clara... The gossip faded, the way gossip does, replaced by something newer. Clara had learned not the group. She'd learned, importantly, that she didn't need every... Brooke had moved to San Antonio for a job. She called once a week. They talked about work, about books, about nothing in particular. It was the kind of relationship Clara had always wanted with her in-law. Easy, honest, no. Nadine had come over 2 weeks ago and ordered pizza and watched a terrible movie and laughed and... Nothing had been about the fight, silence, about the weeks Clara away. Didn't need to be. Friends. Enough. Clara had gone back to Dr. Patel last follow-up. The anemia was better. The irons were working. You look different, Dr. Patel had said. Lighter, somehow. Clara had laughed. Better. It was true. Her phone porch railing. She picked it up from Ethan. Be this week. The therapist things about me, about why I lie, about why I was so of thing. I'll tell you when you're ready. No pressure. Just wanted to know I'm doing the work. Clara read it. She read it again. Then she turned the phone face down on the railing, picked up her coffee, and looked out at the sky. She didn't know with Ethan. Maybe in 4 months. She'd be ready to hear what his therapist had. Maybe she wouldn't. Maybe they'd try again. Maybe they wouldn't. It was her choice now, that mattered. Of coffee. The cicadas hummed. The sun warmed her face. For the first time in a long time, Clara Bennett was where she wanted to be.